Up to this point, we focused on visibility, how people find you, and how to do that without burning yourself out. And now we're going to move on into talking about what happens after someone clicks on your stream. So they saw your content, headed over to your stream. Now what? Growth doesn't come from lots of people stopping by once, right? It comes from people coming in and then deciding to come back. That is your goal. You don't want 100 one-time viewers. You want 10 concurrent viewers, right? That is way more beneficial for you. So most of the time, people stop into your stream for a simple reason. You're playing a game that they already want to watch. And I think that's important for a lot of people to recognize. When people are browsing Twitch, for the most part, they're not kind of randomly browsing it. They're looking up a game they want to see. Okay, so game choice matters for the audience, like the amount of people that watch that game. So there's like a lot of data that you can look up for how many viewers watch X game that you want to play. And then there's saturation, the games that have a lot of viewers, but we're not going to focus on all that right now. I just need you to understand that people browse a game they want to see. Okay, but that's not the whole story. That's just the entry, right? So that's them deciding, hey, I'm going to type in like League of Legends to watch. Now they have all of these League of Legends streamers, right? That's where the story begins. And when they click on you, for whatever reason, that gets them into the room. And then what you do next and everything that follows determines whether or not they'll stay, like whether or not they'll come back tomorrow. Maybe they won't be a regular yet. Maybe they're not, hooked on the idea just yet, but they're interested enough to come see you tomorrow, right? And then you build that relationship. And that's what's important. So honestly, people don't become regulars because of the alerts that you have, the overlays you use, or weird transitions things, okay? They become regulars because they feel acknowledged, they feel seen, they feel like they mesh with your community, with your vibe, right? They love to be responded to. So when they come into your chat and they're saying, hey, and you respond, you guys have a conversation. People love to be remembered. I told you, this is an entertainment industry. So people want to feel that human connection. They want to be involved. So the first interaction matters so much more than most people realize. That's why I said it's important the moment somebody comes in and says hi, that you're pretty quick to look at, you have to be like this, right? You have to make it a habit to look at your chat, right? Maybe you're somebody who nobody ever comes to talk, but if you're doing all this visibility stuff and somebody does stop by and you're not used to it, so you're not looking, you're going to miss that person. They're going to say hi. 5 minutes will go by, and I'm being generous. 5 minutes is generous. Maybe they might give you 2, and then they might leave, right, without being acknowledged. We have very short attention spans. People want very quick validation, and you just have to understand that as an entertainer, okay? That's just something that you're going to have to cope with, I guess. I don't even know how to say it, but it just is the matter of fact, okay? So it matters that you interact with them as quickly as possible, so that way they know, hey, this is a person that actually talks to the stream. And if someone talks in chat and doesn't acknowledge for a long time, they usually won't try again. So that person will not click on your stream again, and you have to keep that in mind as well. So it's very important that you recognize when somebody's there, say hi, and keep the conversation going, right? Saying hi isn't enough. So if they're saying, hey, and you're saying, hey, and how's your day? And you answer, and they're like, oh, I'm just doing X, Y, and Z. Keep it going. Don't just forget that they're there after you say hi, okay? Another thing to keep in mind that's important is that even though your chat is quiet, it doesn't mean that nobody's there. I think that is something that streamers struggle with sometimes. You may have nobody talking, but you could have people listening. There are lots of people that kind of just listen while they're multitasking. They want something to listen to. So there's oftentimes where I'm working where I'll listen to a stream and watch it on the side, but I don't have the ability to actually sit there and chat. So your lurkers are 100% listening to your content. People watch silently. They're just checking you out sometimes. Sometimes they're just feeling like, hey, will I fit in here? They may come back at a later time, pop that follow, come back again, see if they really do fit in, be consistent. So you want to stay conversational even though no one is typing, which helps people imagine themselves actually joining into the conversation. So I think I've gone over this in one of my tiny tips or other things, but if you say certain things, you could leave openings for people to want to chime in. You could talk about your favorite TV show, your favorite movie, maybe your favorite hobby. And you could just ask chat an open statement oh, does anybody else have a hobby or something like that? And it's okay if nobody answers, right? I'm not saying clip this silent moment, right? But if you have open-ended questions and have conversations where people could lean into them and want to have a discussion about it, that's one way to organically bring people out and into the conversation. But even regardless, if you don't want to ask questions, that's fine, but you need to keep talking. You should be talking often. Your mouth should kind of hurt at the end of the day, right? I mean, it'll stop hurting when you talk more, but I imagine you're not used to talking nonstop. So it's going to feel a little bit rough for the first bit, but trust me, the more you talk, the easier it'll get. You'll just start talking to yourself like a crazy person. It's like no problem at all. And one of the fastest ways to turn someone into a regular is remembering them. Like I've said this multiple times, people want that connection. So remember their username. Like, oh, hey, Tasty Pineapple, thanks again. Oh my God, I saw you. How's your day going? Thanks for popping in again. You know, maybe something they've talked about. Maybe Tasty Pineapple loves eggplants. I don't know. Maybe when they came in, they shared something funny in their life and you remembered that, right? You want to talk about that previous conversation. No, it doesn't have to be something big or anything grand. It just needs to feel like you actually cared and it mattered that they were there in your stream. So something really magical happens as your stream grows. As you grow and you get more viewers, you'll notice that they'll start talking to each other. And that is amazing. I love that. Like that's the sweet spot. And that's a good sign. It's absolutely great and amazing if they're not just talking to you. You want them to vibe with each other because that means you're building a community. Your community is forming. People are building friendships, and that's very important. You don't need to control every conversation. And I know some streamers maybe feel like, hey, I'm being left out of this conversation, but it's not that you're being left out of the conversation. Your stream's just having a conversation. Maybe you're not like an expert on it. Maybe it's a game you don't play, and that's okay. And if you want to kind of bring them back in sometimes, you could ask a question, ask something or talk about something, and like they'll naturally kind of like get into your conversation. But that's okay if they're having sidebar conversations. You don't have to, like I know, so for instance, you'll read aloud what people say to you, which by the way, kind of read it in your brain first before you read it aloud, just in case. That's my little secret tip for you. Like, hey, I went to snowball practice today, blah, blah. So you're reading that. And then you find that your stream's having a conversation with each other. You don't have to read that dialogue like aloud. You can just like look over, skim it, realize that it's their conversation, and just keep playing your game. And then whenever somebody pops in and does say something to you, you can go ahead and say that aloud. I want you guys to know that people don't stick around spaces where they feel uncomfortable or unsafe. So we talked about this before. What kind of stream, what kind of community do you want to build? It's okay to set boundaries, right? If X, then Y. You can't control people. So sometimes people think a boundary is don't do this. That's not a boundary. You can't control another individual. But a boundary is something like, if you say this, I will mute you. Or, see my brain, I can't even remember what it is to not ban somebody. But if you say this, you will be timed out for a minute. Or, if you say Y, I will ignore it, right? Those are boundaries. If X, then I do Y, then this happens. Okay, so you want to address harmful behavior early, because if you do not, that harmful behavior will affect your audience, your other viewers. And like I said before, you have a responsibility to make sure that your space is a safe space for the people that you want it to be a safe space for, right? So if somebody comes in and they're being hurtful or harmful, it's your responsibility to nip that in the bud. Maybe you have to ban them outright, right? We have rules for a reason. Your Twitch should have a panel with rules displayed, and you should go into your rules section in your settings and write down a list of rules. And if somebody disobeys a rule, and it's a hard one, right? Like no racism, and somebody comes in, don't give that person a second chance. Ban that person. First of all, that's a very commonsensical one. Second of all, it's clearly displayed. If somebody comes in, use your best judgment, right? Certain things are less one time, last time. So you have to use your better judgment. But make sure that you're protecting the people in your chat, all right? You want the culture you want to be a part of. So for my lovely people, for those of you, my cutie patooties, that are at kind of 0 viewers right now, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. 0 to 1 is kind of the hardest jump. And it goes along with that tip jar theory. $1 already in the tip jar is more likely to get tips than an empty tip jar. People, when they see that there are viewers already there, it kind of gives them a signal like, hey, there's something about this stream that people like. This might be somewhere cool to be, so they click on you. And that early trust, it takes time. So when you're at 0, it's a lot harder to get somebody to be like, okay, I'm going to pop into this person's stream and be that first person. Relationships form slowly, but momentum compounds. So once you get that first viewer, and with any luck, they somewhat chat in your stream, that will bring in more. Like, numbers bring numbers. It's magnetic. So if you're stuck with that zero, like you're at zero, please do not be too discouraged. That is kind of one of the hardest gaps to close, is getting that first consistent viewer in there. I just want you to keep that in mind. So growth isn't about pulling in as many people as possible, right? You want the right people to be in your stream, and that does matter, right? Like, as much as it's like you want numbers, you want the right numbers. You want to create the right environment, the right community, some place that you'll actually enjoy working at, right? This is a job, okay? And that's how 1 becomes 5 and 5 becomes 10, because you'll have like-minded people chilling out in a space that they enjoy being in, you know, that they want to come to every day, that they're waiting and they're like, oh my God, it's 1 p.m. I can't wait till 2. I can't wait till so-and-so gets on. That's what we're building. So keep that in mind. And in the next lesson, we're going to focus on retention, how to keep people after that initial click, and how to make your stream easier to stay in once someone arrives.